I want to talk to you about the 5-minute rule. Now, maybe you've seen this running around the interwebs, but some of you may not have heard of it. And I hadn't heard of it until fairly recently. And then when I read about it, I'm going like, OMG, I've been doing this like all my life. And maybe it's one of the reasons that and I really don't mean to boast or brag, but some of my friends say, Ellen, like you're successful at everything you do. I mean, part of the thing is that I try different things because my least favorite word in the English language is boring. So I'm a lifelong learner, and I've had wonderful, fun, interesting careers. And the moment I think I'm not having a good time, it's always been time to move on to something else. But the way to do this is by trying different things and not procrastinating. And if you procrastinate, sometimes you can be frozen in time, like it seems forever. So I want to share with you the 5-minute rule as it relates to overcoming not only procrastinating, but also enjoying your life and living a long and healthy and fulfilling life. That's such a huge part of it, finding that reason for living, raison d'etre, as the French say. So that reason you get up every morning to do something fun and exciting and not lie there like, God love him, my boyfriend likes to he'll spend an hour in bed just meditating, which is important to do. And if you meditate in bed, knock yourself out. I find myself just, as he likes to say, he's an anxious spirit, so am I. I want to get up and get running. And I have always, put my clothes to the side of the bed and just have left no excuses for me to not run. I mean, I do take rest days, but for 45 years, I've been a runner, and it really pays off. Today at yoga class, some woman comes up to me and says, you have amazing legs. I'm like, okay. And she says, like, are you a runner? And I go, yeah, like for 45 years. So that kind of thing, it does show. And the 5-minute rule basically is just that you set an alarm clock for 5 minutes. And the idea is that if you just stick your big toe in the water just for 5 minutes, you may find that before long, you are doing that thing that you really didn't want to do for way more than 5 minutes. So I just want to touch on the neuroscience of this, because it's this whole concept that if you try something just for 5 minutes, it's going to break through that resistance and that negativity that you have that says, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. So if you just do it for 5 minutes, then you can get started. You can get started on days where your motivation is really low. And what I realized is that, as I mentioned earlier, I have applied this to running. I was a runner for a long time in the Midwest, where we would often have snow and ice storms, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. But once I just started the activity of getting up and putting on the Gore-Tex, if you remember that far back. Gore-Tex was the very first water-resistant material. It was like wearing a coat of armor, and it would crinkle and crunch and make awful noises when you would run, but it kept the water out, and that was pretty cool to be able to run in bad weather and to be able to enjoy nature, not only when the days are gorgeous, but when there's snow and ice on the ground. And that's really how I persevered, is just setting up that routine where I would always be out the door, maybe with a banana or nothing, just to make sure I got it done. Because many runners, and I've had this experience, I've been very lucky to have run 5K races with a couple of my children, and we always sit on the way to the race kind of scowling, oh, we hate running, I don't want to do this, why are we doing this? And then of course, and even now with my boyfriend, after we finish doing a 5K race or going for a run, we never regret it. We kick and scream all the way to the start line, but there are just so many great benefits especially as it applies to running. So having this routine is just important to make sure that the first 5 minutes, you get it done. And then before you know it, you're doing it for a longer period of time. Even with racing, I'll say things to myself, okay, especially coming back from an injury, I can always walk, not a big deal, just as long as I get to the start line. That's the important thing. So this trick helps to build momentum, and it helps deal with the negative self-talk that you might be doing to yourself, and just remembering the positive things, why you were running, who you were running for, if not for yourself, maybe friends or family. And if there are things that are bothering you, physical things, when you run, it's important to do a mental check-in, a full body scan physically, like how are you feeling? And then if there is something in your brain that is distracting you, it's okay to kind of go there, but then just focus on the run, start looking around you, enjoy the environment. As you take in the deep breaths, your brain will start feeling better. And if you drink beet juice like I do before races, because there's lots of nitric oxide in that, your lungs are just feeling like they're amazing, and the breathing is no problem, because running is as much a breathing and mental sport as it is a sport of putting one leg in front of the other. So all of this kind of feedback, it just helps you feel energized, and the endorphins start kicking in, and before you know it, you're having a good time. But it's also important to know that you can beat procrastination way beyond running. With any sport, if you're dreading jumping in a cold swimming pool, we don't always have heated pools in Florida, although in the summertime it's not so much an issue. But as the months get cooler, it really can be uncomfortable. And you just have to say, okay, 5 minutes, I'm going to do it. If I hate it, I can get up. And You can also apply this to stretching. A yoga class, I took a yoga class this morning and I was just not wanting to do it because I've had some aches and pains and I didn't want to injure myself anymore. But I thought, I really need to spend an hour stretching the whole body. So I always thought, I can sit near the back, near the door. If I don't like it, I can go out, but I never do. This can also apply to preparing a healthy meal. You might come home at the end of the day and go, oh, it's just so easy to put a frozen dinner, so unhealthy, in the microwave. But if you plan in advance and have everything ready so that when you come home, you can just get into this routine of assembling it and putting it together. So it isn't that big of a deal. Or maybe you batch cook on the weekends, some beans and rice, so you have that right ahead of you. And you don't have to really think about it. You just do it. And before long, the meal is coming together. Another area that's so important to apply the 5-minute rule is to keeping your house clean. I can't tell you how many hoarder houses I've been into in real estate. And even as a reporter, I covered a really tragic story of firefighters who couldn't get in to save a guy he'd been smoking in his bedroom and his house was so cluttered they couldn't reach him in the bedroom in time. And I covered that story and went in the aftermath and just saw what a disaster it was. And not only could you not walk, but his car was the same way too. So when you start getting into a routine of just cleaning up maybe 5 minutes a day, and before you know it, you're on a roll. And it just feels good, as other people have told me, when they come into a house and it is all clean and you don't really have to think about where's my favorite pot because it's put away. So getting into this routine of just 5 minutes a day of staying organized, keeping things clean, can really do a lot for your psyche and to just have a more positive attitude about your life. It gives you a sense of control. And in a world that is completely out of control, we need to find things that kind of focus us and bring us back in. I've known people who actually say the word focus, focus, focus. They say that to themselves to try and come into the present and not be distracted by all the things that are vying for our attention, that keep us away from what we really want and love to do. This approach really leads to consistency, and consistency, as we know, is key to everything. And when you form those lifelong habits that become a part of who you are, then it's not so much a problem to start, especially on the days where you think, oh, I'm so tired. Like last night, I only got 5 hours sleep, and that's pretty rare for me. And I really didn't want to go to the gym this morning, but I knew if I did, even if I did something easy like yoga, or there was a Pilates class for only 30 minutes. And when you look at it for 30 minutes versus an hour, it was much more palatable, although it was pretty tough. So just starting with 5 minutes can really get you on a journey to do the things that will lead you toward living a much more fun and fulfilled life and keep you on that road to longevity. I didn't start out to be a runner for 45 years, but having those habits that made it stay consistent for me, where there are no excuses unless you're injured or you need to rest, and those are all good reasons to take a rest. It's important that can help you on your journey. So I encourage you to try the 5-minute rule and let me know how it works for you, or if you've already done it. Has it been a challenge for you? What kinds of changes have you noticed in your lifestyle if you are doing this kind of thing, or when you do this kind of thing? So don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips on enjoying a healthy, fulfilling, fun, and long life, because that's what it's all about. We all get the same 24 hours a day, and you might as well enjoy it, because if you don't, it's time to change directions. All right, everyone, gotta run.